Dolores Brito and Samuel Stafford is asking about soul sleep. Does your soul go immediately to heaven or hell, or do you sleep until the resurrection? I can't give you my opinion. I can only give you Bible verses. So let's go to the Bible. Let's go to Genesis 2, verse 7. What is a soul? Genesis 2, verse 7 says that God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed in him the breath of life, and then man became a living soul, right? Man became a living soul. It wasn't, Adam didn't have a soul. It wasn't as if he can reach down his pocket and say, hey, look, it's my soul, right? No, Adam became a soul. So God formed man out of the dust of the ground, that's your body, right? And then breathed in him the breath of life, that's your breath. And then he became a living soul. So body plus breath, living soul. Think of it like a light bulb. What do you need to have light? What do you need for light to exist? Well, one, you need the power, right? Number two, you need current. Number three, you need the bulb. All those three together make light. And so without the current coming from the power going to the light bulb, you can't have any light. So think of the power as God, think of the current as the breath, and think of the light bulb as your body. And then once you put those three together, you have light, which is your soul. Body plus breath equals soul. Genesis 2 verse 7 says, God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed in him the breath of life, and then man became a living soul. So what is the spirit? Well, we got to remember that the Bible was written in Hebrew and Greek. The word spirit for Hebrew is ruah. It means breath. It means wind. And the word for it in Greek is pneuma, same thing, breath or wind. So body plus spirit, soul. Okay? John chapter 11, if you read the whole chapter, Jesus compares death to a sleep. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Jesus says, our friend Lazarus sleeps. And then the disciples didn't know what he was talking about. And then he says, let's go to Judea so that we can wake him up. And then and his disciples said, wait, don't wake him up because he's asleep. He might be better if he's asleep. And then Jesus says, no, plainly, right? Jesus says, Lazarus, our friend Lazarus, is dead. Jesus compares death to sleep. And then when he gets to the tomb, he talks with Mary and Martha. And then, he says to Martha, Martha says, if you were here, Jesus, he wouldn't have died. And then, she goes on to say, yes, he will resurrect at the end, at the last day. Read it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Jesus says in John chapter 11 that death was asleep. Jesus compares death to a sleep. And then when they got to the tomb, Martha says, he will resurrect at the end. And then Jesus demonstrates the resurrection by praying to God. He looks up at the sky. It's in the Bible. He looks up at the sky and he says, Father, thank you for that you hear me all the time. And then he stops looking at the sky. He looks at the tomb and says, Lazarus, come forth. He didn't say Lazarus, come down after he just got done talking to his Father in heaven, right? He says, Lazarus, come forth. Why did he say come forth? Because he knew what Martha knew. That Lazarus was in the grave. Not in heaven, in the grave. Let's take a look at more scripture. Ecclesiastes 12 verses 6 and 7 says that when you die, your body returns to the earth, because in Genesis it says, for dust you are and dust you shall return, and to dust you shall return. So when you die in Ecclesiastes 12, when you die, your body goes back to earth, and your spirit, which is your breath, ruah, will go back to God who gave it. It's not the soul, it's not your invisible person that lives inside of you that goes up to God. It's your spirit, your breath goes back to God who gave it. That's Ecclesiastes 12. Ecclesiastes 9 verses 5 and 6, I think, says that when you die, you know nothing. It says that when you're living, you know that you're gonna die, but when you're dead, you know nothing. Your love, your hatred, your jealousy will perish. So when you die, you don't know it. You're not alive. So death really means death. When you're dead, you really are dead. In Genesis, God said, if you touch the fruit, if you sin, if you touch the fruit, you will surely die. Satan says, if you touch the fruit, you won't surely die. Who is right? Who do you believe? God or Satan? God said you will die. Satan says you won't die. I believe God. There's a lot more. There's a lot more scripture to this. I'm actually doing a study to this. This is actually part of the movie that I'm going to be doing soon. I already wrote like 80 pages of it, and I'm still writing. And we're trying to get everything together so that we can do the movie. It's about death, kind of, because Jesus saved us from sin and death. And so death is a big part of it. And so we're going to be doing that movie soon.